All right, welcome in. Here we are. We are live for the Hire Smarter in Multifamily Faster and Without Guesswork event. I'm Patrick Antrim. I'm the chairman of the Multifamily Innovation Council and founder and CEO of NectarFlow. I do see you. Hey, Ed, good to see you there. We've got Alethea, Amy, good to see you. Listen, as you join, just put your name in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. Would love to make this interactive and be useful and productive for the things you're working on. So happy to share the time with you. Listen, we've been doing research for more than 11 years nationally as part of the Best Places to Work multifamily program. And this gives us an insight into the data that drives growth for companies. And it's one of the most exciting things that we get to do. Many of you know, like Tom, been part of the program for many years. Tom Gwynn, and good to see you from North Carolina. I think you guys are out there. I was just in Wilmington the last couple of weeks, so good to see you guys here. Sandra, good to see you. Carrie, good to see you here. Let's see. Georgia, good to see you. That's great. And Faith, okay, good. Florida, we're down in Florida. All right, so this is Eastern time zone for you guys. Happy that you'd spend the time with us today. So we've got some really exciting stuff to talk about. For me, I can see these chat messages. I'll glance down at them. We'll go through some content, and I want to be useful and productive as you do that. So Amanda, welcome in. We're just letting the people in. Eleanor, welcome in. Good to see you here. All right, so we're here to talk about what's really broken in multifamily hiring, and more importantly, how to fix it, right? The average time right now that people are spending stretches beyond, I think, 41 days is what the data shows. 41 days to hire someone. In fact, we have pages and pages of notes of people that have participated to be involved in watching this and watching the replay and all that stuff. And some of those comments, there was one that said that they've had an open position for more than a year. How long is it taking you guys? Is it taking you a long time to hire? What are you guys seeing in the market? I'd love to hear from you in the chat. I'd love to keep that engaging as well. Eleanor, Indiana, I love that. Indiana, I remember Indiana, the Northeast side. Loved the innovation that's happening around that marketplace. So good to see you here. But listen, all of this really comes down to productivity in our business slows down when we don't get this right. We do not want positions sitting vacant, and businesses are starting to lose $27,000 per unfilled role. So you start to think about that in your organization, per unfilled role. And this goes across not just multifamily. This is an industry problem that needs to be solved. All right, so Jennifer says, we've had an open position for 3 to 4 months. Jennifer, I can feel that. I understand the frustration there. And again, guess what? Someone else is needing to step up and do that role probably, right? And that requires more burnout, right? And more stressors for organizations, even health for companies. And a lot of times we don't think this is impacting us as much as it is. And it's a problem worth solving today. So you're going to really enjoy, I think, a lot of the two things I think are important that if left unsolved can really make a company suffer or be the one that makes competitive advantage in the future. So that is talent, as we're talking about here, and attention, right? And part of this is how do you get attention of the right talent to draw them in to make your business better, and that's what we're going to talk about. So, and again, listen, companies are putting $4,700 per hire into all the systems and the processes that were really built in an old internet era where things were more different structure, right? There's a lot of technology we've been trying to use to get this right. And look, I think my notes are showing 69% of employers still say they cannot find qualified candidates. It is, and again, if you think about professional sports scout talent. They go where winning happens, and winning oftentimes is inside an organization where someone's not even looking for the job. So that's where we're talking about attention and marketing. If you're in marketing, you're going to love this because recruitment is marketing, right? And great marketing repels as much as it attracts, but we have to know who we want in our organization first. And we're going to, I'm teasing this, but we're going to really, I think, blow your mind on one of the things where you can sit back and go, you know what? It's not me. We've just been missing this one step in the process, and we've been rushing it. And I think we now, knowing how big this problem is, this can be our competitive advantage to make a shift in our organization. So it's not about sourcing, right? Sourcing is not the problem. Selection is the problem. And if you think about the process that happens, if you think about the renting experience or a customer experience, we talk a lot about friction and having a seamless process and a simple process. Well, if you've ever shopped your own jobs, most of the people that are hiring today haven't gotten a job in a long time through the processes that they expect people to go through, because they have referrals and they're executives and they're not shopping their recruitment process like they're shopping their renting process. And so they're unaware of the frustration, right, that winners need to go through to even become part of your organization. And what happens? Because of that frustration, all the candidates are applying to everything and anything. Recruiters are now drowning in administration costs, or not costs, but like it's costing them, but it's admin stuff everywhere. Overwhelm of resumes, all that stuff. But guess what? These hiring managers, and sometimes they're on-site managers or regional managers, we got PDFs on computers sent as attachments, going here, going there, logging in, downloading, all of that process. And hiring managers still are only spending about 7 seconds on a resume because all the AI resumes are starting to look the same, and you just can't even find out who is great in that process, right? So again, if you think about the resume, just back up, like how we decide who to hire. What does the resume even tell us? I'm going to show you this little slide here real quick. The resume doesn't tell us much. If you think about a resume as a stick figure, you can't really see the complete picture of the human, right? What their qualities are, what makes them special, the full picture, right? And we're going to talk about something called Picasso Hire, because we've named it Picasso, because what we want to do is improve that selection process and give you the full picture of who most likely will win in a role within your company, right? And that's hard to do, and we can't do that when we're rushing the process and our recruiters and hiring managers are overburdened by all this process, right? Because there's just the way that it works now is anybody can apply and everybody does, and it overwhelms the system, right? And 60% of the candidates drop out of this sort of long, frustrating hiring journey. Candidate experience, right? Let me show you this slide right here. This is what we're aiming to talk about today. We want to simplify the recruiting process. Look, recruiters, again, hiring managers, regional managers, property managers, are buried with these admin tasks, right? So all this stuff, this 90% stuff we want to automate, but we want to focus on this selection. Again, you're going to hear me talk about selection over and over and over, because sometimes we're actually not good at it, including myself. And I'm someone that cares a lot about this and has a lot of data over some of the best companies going back 11 years. But you know what happens with me? Is I get excited. I see potential. I get hopeful. And I hire. And then I respect brands that someone maybe have worked for in the past. And I'm thinking, wow, they would do great here. And the reality is, we need to focus on competencies and we need to focus on success factors. And our current processes that we have are not built to help us choose the best candidates, right? It's built to help us move fast. And we just hope for the best, right? we're still, if you think about how many of you, and I'm going to let's go to the chat. How many of you use some sort of an assessment to evaluate candidates? I would love for you to take a moment in the chat, put that in there, and just, I want to know, like, are you doing any kind of personality tests or culture fit tests or anything like that? I would love to hear from you guys how that plays out for you, because these assessments that we're using them in the wrong place and in the wrong step. We're using it after someone is hired, after someone is onboarded. Victoria says, only for MS, other than that, no. MS, maybe you can tell me what MS means. Hi, Lori, good to see you. Let's see, we use the predictive index. Great assessment, but more for after hiring information rather than weeding out candidates based on that solely. Maintenance super, I should have known that. I'm in multifamily, I should have known that, Amy. I'll get it someday. Oh, Victoria stepped in to save me there. That's awesome. This is such a great community. We're all sharing good wisdom together. Listen, and to Eleanor's question, exactly, we're using the assessments because these assessments are costly, right? So, but anyway, the traditional assessments cost anywhere between, I would say, I don't know, $55 to $200 each. So it makes sense, like when we're doing executive recruiting, we're making a key hire and a C-suite hire. We're going to spend money before we know, does this person have a culture fit within the organization? But those assessments have been reserved for executives, not necessarily entry-level leasing professionals or even maintenance techs, right? And so, but again, going back to my point, these assessments are in the wrong, they're not something you need to stop doing. And what we're talking about here isn't different from, you're still using all those assessments because you've bought into that and you have a culture and a process around that. What we're going to talk about today is not going to be disruptive to what you're doing now or ripping out old systems. Everything should be about making this selection process better, but assessments are in that wrong order, right? We're using assessments for people that we've already chosen. It doesn't really make sense. Not the ones that we're choosing from. Those are the candidates that are coming in. We need to assess them before we even invest in assessing. So we're going to talk about that today, and it's a big picture because a lot of people, I think, are using a lot of great tools and technologies. Maybe you're using different software, interview systems, or applicant tracking systems, or even AI. And, there's a lot of things happening around summarization. But what we're doing is we're saying we're going to own the process of making sure that we don't have any mishires, that we really understand that selection process. So I want you to think about that. If you could assess every candidate right at the top of the funnel as they came in, would that be cool? Let me know in the chat. Would that be cool? Would you be able to focus on the ones that would be most likely willing to win in the organization or more set up to win in that process? And again, automating 90% of that work. Going back to the slide, what if I could automate 90% of that work, and then with the selection and having an assessment as if you paid someone $200 for an assessment that allows that sorting and that ranking to go better, and then move into your current process. So listen, I believe this process isn't just about the personality. I don't believe it's about the traits, the generic scores or the factors, right? What we're talking about here is actually assessments on how people actually think, how they reason, and how they solve problems. If you've got a place to note there, write that down. How they reason, how they think, and how they solve problems. Because we can understand that when I show you how we're using voice and AI to spend time with candidates even before you do that can get to the mindsets around how they think, how they reason, and how they solve problems. And that is a predictor, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Victoria says, yes, what tool would be using across the board for all openings? We'll talk about some tools here in a minute here, Victoria, so we'll get to that. Eleanor says, oh yes, to clarify, we use it for leasing agents and after a screening call, but before a hiring manager interview. The hiring manager gets access to the results and can use it to inform questions. That's great. Inform questions, that's a good one. We'll be talking about having the right questions that are unique for the culture fit for these organizations too. But we don't base hiring solely on that result. Absolutely, that's great practice. If we don't match the profile we are looking for, we won't rule them out based on that. Yes, again, Eleanor, powerful professional comment, and I'll tell you why. A lot of people are getting confused. Misinformation is the biggest challenge right now in your role, because a lot of people are coming to you with AI and this and automation and all of that, and they're trying to help you, but the reality is the way to help you is to help you select. And what that means is you decide who works for your organization. Nobody knows your organization better than you. The people that founded it, built it, protected that culture, and created on a daily basis. And I'm going to show you later how we're able to extract that from your voice and your insights and the nuances of what makes the organization great to essentially create a model that can be productive in how we assess that. We call it Picasso hire. We named it that because, we like to name things because naming is important. But again, going back to Picasso hire, if I go back, I'm going to show you like this. The resume is a stick figure. It doesn't tell us much. The resume doesn't talk, right? And we're missing great hires as much as overwhelmed by systems. So what we're looking to do is we want to give you the complete picture, the Picasso, the beautiful art, right? And analogy for art. If you took all the beautiful art in the world and you put it in a warehouse or a building, it would be called a warehouse, all right? All the beautiful art in the world in one building is a warehouse. You pull one piece of art out of the warehouse, you put it on a white wall, shine a light on it, frame it, and you've just increased the value of the art in the context of how that art is seen. So it's pulling people out of the noise. So that warehouse could be where you're advertising. It could be social media. It's the noise. But with selection, we can pull the right people out of this to select the right candidates. So that's what we're aiming to do here. So, all right. So we're going to talk today about a new kind of an assessment. It's really built on, back to the intelligent selection at scale. Think of having a hiring assessment custom to each property and company, and manage it by location, even across every portfolio property. Maybe you have 200 properties. You could have 200 different unique AI models that really help you select the right people for that market, for that role, right? Solving this very important problem, right? Now, every candidate, as you know, because you've been one, carries the evidence of how they fit within the organization. And how do they do that? In their voice. And sometimes you don't detect that until you're in a conversation with them in the interview. And you're going to hear how we're going to help you become better interviewers later. When I bring in Miles, he's going to talk a little bit about the tactical and the technical about how this happens, but how this is where AI is helping people do their jobs better and becoming an educator to be a better interviewer, right? So Picasso, as we talk about here in a minute, we listen to the voice as people speak, how they go about solving problems, and we're processing literally 4 different reasoning models. it's an AI model nobody else has. Now, one of my advisors is Dr. David White. He's a cognitive scientist, and he's been on a journey to understand why company culture doesn't happen and how job performance and predictive performance can lead to culture change or not changing. So how do you productively move through change happens to be with who you have in your organization and what their skills are or competencies and success factors. And so if we know that true when someone wants to write a $1 million check to work with someone that wants to get this right, we put this reasoning model into our AI model that will become part of every location and part of every interview that you do at every role, every job. And I'm going to give you a little bit of that right now before we get into the weeds of this stuff. There's 4 different things that we're going to talk about that in the background is why it's not like just using AI that summarizes, and like maybe your applicant tracking system is using AI, but the reality is everyone else is using the same AI. Right? It's just summarizing information that comes in. What we're able to do is extract information that otherwise AI models don't have, and then provide these 4 different reasoning models that are going to allow you to really have productive conversations and interviews with these candidates so you can select better. And so, for example, like if I'm talking to you in an interview and I hired a cognitive scientist to do that, it's kind of like a detective that knows things. Like you're telling them stories, but they're like reading things, right? They're trained to know when someone's nervous or when someone's leaning into something, all that stuff. And one of the AI model or reasoning models we have is called necessary and sufficient. So in the background, our AI model is thinking about that stuff as people are talking about how they go about solving problems in their job, right? And they think about necessary and sufficient being like the logic behind what they think is true for success to happen. And just a quick analogy on that would be, well, not analogy, it would be, if X happens and only X happens, then Y can happen. So that may be something like, if I raise money, then I can launch my company. I can't launch the product until I raise capital or something like that. Now, the other one is conditionality. That's the second one. We're listening for conditionality. And conditionality is, think of it like if this, then that, right? Is how they view the results happening. If this happens, then that will happen. So when you're interviewing a candidate, and by the way, the AI model's doing this without you needing to be this cognitive scientist, if you hire a leasing agent or a leasing professional, and that leasing professional worked for a company that was aggressive on concessions, and the way that they see the world is they believe they need to have concessions in order to lease apartments, that may come out of a conversation that our voice AI agent extracts from them in the interview process or the assessment process. Right? So that would be something like, well, tell me about your past role. What was hard about that? Well, how did you go about solving the occupancy challenge, right? And in the way that they go about describing how they went about work is the magic in how we select better. And our voice AI agents can determine that and provide some information and insights for you to ask questions to get clarifying. So what that means is, let's say a leasing agent was talking about, you're asking about their last lease up, and they believe, well, if we had 2 months free rent, we could have gotten to 92% faster. Now, they're just telling you something, an observation about how they think the conditions need to be in order for them to do their job. Well, that's important for you if you're a company that doesn't do concessions or a market that's under different conditions, right? So this is where our regional managers, our VPs, and our HR people, they're overwhelmed by the system. We can't get this good at extracting and finding these nuances, but with voice, we can, right? And then we go into the third one, which is like beliefs. We're looking at, these are the convictions that they have about work, right? This could be, no one will ever rent an apartment without technology, or only people, you need to have a leasing agent to show an apartment. or these types of beliefs that come from working at different organizations and different experiences and track records. And then the final one, the fourth one, is the assumptions. We're looking at, as resumes come in, we're looking at assumptions, and we're looking at these sort of unspoken, these are the mental models that drive actual behavior, right? And this framework comes from a cognitive science. Like this goes back to the U.S. Air Force in the 1940s when they were a wartime employer and they went to a peaceful employer. And what that means is, they needed to determine who we're going to keep and what role they're going to do in the organization. And it was a complete reorg. And that spun off a lot of predictive behavior and cognitive science to study and predict corporate job performance. So all that's played out. We have an AI model that's going to help you move through this. Okay? But again, this is not just about theory. This is about a practical use of AI in your organization that's going to map every role at every property. It could be a leasing agent at this property, leasing at this property is totally different. Different competencies. Yet using the same stuff, right? So we can listen to the candidate, make better decisions, and essentially improve the hiring process for every hiring manager that's involved in this, because selecting is what we're trying to solve today. So what I'm going to give to you is I've got a lot of notes that we've put into to make sure that we deliver for you. We're going to show you a demonstration too of software as well that's going to, Picasso software that's going to show you this. But again, we want to move beyond this surface level resumes. If the surface level resume on the left, right? We want to choose candidates on competencies, right? We want to have success factors in place specifically at every role, right? Not just credentials. And what tools do you know how to use, right? We're going to show you how, we're going to reveal like how candidates think, how they solve problems, how they align with your culture. And this is actually, to your some of the comments here, is before you sit down with them for the interview, not after, right? We're going to show you how AI helps every team member, from executives to on-site staff. We're going to have better questions that you can ask. And I'm not talking about AI summarized, weak, vanilla, generic, templated questions that actually repel candidates. Like this is not me. Unique questions that determine the gap between the competencies that you require and the presentation that the candidate has to truly uncover that fit and test some of those things that came out in the interview. So again, generating interview questions that are tailored just to your candidate is something that takes cognitive work. It takes time, right? And if you just try and template it, you don't want to go with that. You want to have standard questions you ask your candidates that are like, you ask everybody these things, but in the follow-on questions, that's where the magic is. Tell me more about that. What was hard about that? What was difficult about that? So again, equipping you today, I wanted to make sure that we're resourceful. And if you're watching now, like, tell me, what's your biggest challenge right now that you have? I mean, I have a whole list of them, and I'm going to bring Miles on. We're going to talk about those challenges, but if you've got one top of mind right now, put it in the chat, right? Our goal is to help you fix the bad hires, right? Right? Bad hires don't just cost you time. Right now, the data shows they're costing companies 3 to 4 times the annual salary of that employee. I mean, you think about a missed summer season on a lease up, or in a construction process, the loan carry, the pain, a problem, a legal problem, right? The toxicity that having a wrong hire runs away winners in your organization, right? We're going to show you how to reduce those costs. We want to stabilize your team performance, and ultimately, we want to give you the tools to protect your culture. Because in multifamily, it's not just turnover, right? It doesn't just affect staffing. It literally affects your leasing, your ability to rent higher, at the prices you want. It affects your leasing experience. And ultimately, your investors are counting on you to collect the right people, get them working effectively together so you can rent more and sell more and protect their yield, right? So let me look at these comments here. So the biggest challenge Amy's talking about here is getting the person you interviewed to be the person who shows up every day at work. Gosh, that is so true. And we oftentimes know that quickly. And then from a legal standpoint, just a management standpoint, it's hard because it's hard to have false starts. We don't want that. That's not good for anybody. Claudia, keeping quality talent right after the hire. Experienced many staying short time after the hire. Absolutely. And a lot of times that could be a mismatch of competency, what they say they want to do to get the job, but what is required of them to do a good job. Once they're in that, different skill sets, and they check out and they're out. Put the comments that you have and the challenges in the chat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to integrate this all within your current system. So we're not talking about ripping out any systems, changing anything. If you got tools, applicant tracking systems, if you don't have one, I can show you how end-to-end Picasso can help you with that. But ultimately, if you have anything, we can connect anything with an API. So it's not about, again, replacing anything that you have. You just need to start seeing more clearly the people that are most likely going to win for your organization, right? So this is your chance to, in my opinion, if I'm taking over a company or a property, my ability to take over that company, walk into any organization and know that I can focus on talent and creating attention for an organization, I can turn it around, I can turn a team around. Because most people want to do a good job. It's for us to select the ones and give them that opportunity, right? But not by adding another tool. You don't need more tools, more things, right? This is about getting the full picture of the people you're about to invest in. If you were scouting professional baseball players, it's the same thing. You're scouting. You're looking at everything, not just the skill and the role, right? So let's go ahead and get into the weeds of this and begin. I want to walk you through how everything works. I have Miles Maybe. He's our technical solutions engineer who leads our product here at NectarFlow. He's going to join us. And Picasso is just one of the products we've developed under this intellectual layer that allows you to create value in your organization using AI applications. And group one of our beta is how we refined this and got it really unique, multi-location for multifamily, and that's part of the Multifamily Innovation Beta Program. We had about 87 people go through that program. We grouped them, and I'm proud to say that this was developed with companies, not for everybody, to make everybody change and operate with. So, Miles, welcome in.
Hey, thanks, Patrick. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you for hanging out with us. That was a long opening, but we've got a good audience here that's engaged. And you and I have seen a lot of the challenges and the goals coming in. Do you want to kind of take some of those from the bat and reflect on maybe some of these things that we're really here to solve?
Yeah, I mean, we saw some really great ones. There's definitely some common threads going through the challenges and organization goals that you guys all put in when you signed up for the event. Some of these are how do we recruit passive candidates? Some like you were talking about, those winners that are at another organization that you want them to win at your organization, but they're not really actively searching for a job because they're doing great where they are. A lot of attracting the right talent. And sourcing, that kind of challenges. And I even saw one in here that they don't have really an ATS. They've just been using Indeed's built-in system, which has a lot of challenges and limitations. Yeah. And I even saw a comment about generic AI, like you were talking about AI that's built into other products that are just very, very generic. It's built for everybody to use. So I think there's a lot of great stuff here that we address.
That's really good. Let's see. I'm going to go to my. Are you sharing your screen or?
I am sharing my screen. You just need to push it.
Oh, well, okay, perfect. Well, we'll go back to that. So what we have here, and I'll go back to the white camera here. Victoria says, would you be able to use this for student housing properties as well? And the answer to that is yes. I mean, it's really for any company. A company that is nothing more than a collection of people. So if a company has people, this is your ability to bring the right ones in and to have all the right resources and information to select the right people. Ultimately, that's going to be for you to do. So where do you want to begin with this?
Yeah, well, let's talk about, as you kind of mentioned, there's the executive level attention that candidates get. And so I want to show quickly how we kind of bring that executive level attention and attention to detail down to every level of candidate.
So when you say that, what you're saying is typically if somebody were hiring a C-suite executive, that they outsource that to a recruiting firm. That recruiting firm does a lot of stuff, and they're like, here's one or two candidates. But in that process, there's a depth of review. There's a depth of a bigger range than just like an Indeed listing or something like that. And so what we're doing is we're able to bring this to every candidate that comes in, regardless if they end up hiring them or not. So again, giving them the right tools before they even select. So let's begin.
So go ahead, switch to my screen here. And so I'm going to go to candidates first. And so we got a couple in here.
And if you have questions, put them in the chat. Happy to go through those. You're not interrupting us. We're here for you on this.
Correct. So we can go over here to Ian. And so I'm just going to skip to the assessments, but you can see all the basic information you might need is all in one place based on that candidate, which is really helpful from an organization standpoint. We have, their basic information, but here we have the resume that they submitted. It's embedded as a PDF. You can download it if you need to, but the nice thing is you don't need to download it. It's embedded right here. I think we've all downloaded enough resumes to our downloads folder and then lost them and had to re-download them. But what I really want to highlight is this Picasso Hire Report. So this is the item that is kind of that executive level review that we're doing now for every single level of.
Okay, so each candidate, let's scroll through this real quick, and we'll come back to this, but we're going to show you how this gets assembled for each candidate. So you go through here, you look at executive summary, screening down, you have a screening analysis, and then we have job interview questions unique for each candidate. So let's go away from this is what we're going to end up with, but we'll end the demonstration here. But let's go to the competencies and show you where all this begins.
Yep. So where we start with is, in order to know what candidates you want to match up to the job, you need to know what's involved with the actual job. And typically, job descriptions are kind of a checklist of items, and they're often kind of generic, and they have just the important information. What's hard with that is when a candidate reads that, unless they are creative, they're not really going to identify with that job. They're not going to get excited about the job. They're going to say, I forget.
Okay, so I made the analogy to you the other day, as I said, listen, like in a Ford commercial, there's the boats, there's products that aren't even their product in the commercial because they're emotionally engaged with who they want to draw on and sell to, right? Sometimes our job descriptions are written like the owner's manual.
Of a car.
Of a car, which doesn't sell cars and get people excited about cars, but it's important, but not part of the thing that's going to attract and bring in the right candidates.
Yeah. So for our system, what we have built in, if you want to switch to my screen here, you can create your job. And when you do create your job, you can actually leave the description blank. We'll help you fill that out. But here we have job competencies and success factors. We actually have a phone number here that is a voice AI job competencies agent. And so what your hiring manager, regional manager, someone who is maybe hiring for this role can do is call this number, give the code for this job, and it's going to ask them questions about why you're hiring. What does success look like? What does a successful candidate look like? What do they need to do? And really, the whole goal of it is to get you talking about stories about times that employees did a really good job in this role or other.
Okay, so this is like hiring a consultant without paying the fee.
Correct.
To then meet with you and extract what winning looks like at the organization. And it's those nuances how we describe it. And we can describe it differently. Like the manager may have certain things, the leasing professional the regional may have different things they want, the owner may want things differently. And so when we describe that success, what we're really doing is tell us about how we're building this model to come up with the things that when a resume comes in, we're now having richer data, better data that is not available in like a ChatGPT and all these different AIs out there.
Yeah, exactly. You know, for this job, you can have multiple people do this phone call for a particular job. Let's say a leasing agent. You can have the regional do the job phone call, the property manager do the call. You can have a fellow leasing agent who does really good at the job currently do that call. And what that's going to allow it to do is our AI model is going to pull all those different perspectives together, and it's going to take all that really rich information and that stories that we're told about what success looks like and puts them into one cohesive job competencies, job success factors, and job description.
Okay, so now put in the chat if you guys want us to actually demo that call live. That would be fun to do. I'll only do it if you guys want to, though. Put in the chat, yes, I want to see the AI, call or competency,
yeah.
right? So this is about, before even posting a job to hire, it's about getting clarity and doing this type of work so we can get better at then using AI to summarize these candidates as they come in.
Yeah. If you want to switch, I can show you a job that we've already done this phone call for.
Okay, I will wait for the viewers. If they want to if they're going to put in there, we'll make the call. But let's go ahead and carry on here.
Yeah, so here's one for a leasing agent we've already done the phone call for. We have a nice core competencies benefits. But down here, now that we have done the phone call, we can see the competency framework for this leasing agent position. And as you mentioned, every candidate that applies for this job, their resume is going to be compared to now a lot more information about, what competencies, core competencies, what it demonstrates, what exhibits it, and then the success factors. Because ultimately, what we're trying to get here is a candidate that is going to be successful at a job. And to do that, they need to have certain competencies. And so that's why we've done this route of generating these levels basically to your job. Right now, you've got a job with a job description and you're posting. Now, our system is going to have a lot more information about, okay, you've got a job, but what does success actually look like in this very particular role? So your leasing agent job may be completely different for each property in your portfolio because one may be a luxury property, one may be a lease up, one may be affordable. What success looks like is going to be different, and because what competencies the people who are in that role need to have are going to be different. So you can see here
this is why people get it wrong, because we're not doing this type of and you can get it right, just can't get it right at scale in some cases.
And what we find in our experience is that it's a lot easier to talk about what does success look like than if Patrick, if I asked you to sit down and type out on a Google Doc what does success look like in a job role, it's either going to take you a long time.
Well, then you go to copy paste. You're like, well, I have a job description, and this is it's like pulling the owner's manual out of the glove box. That's not what we want to talk about, right? Job descriptions are what they are, but these are job ads as well.
Correct.
Right? So, all right, let's go back to this. What do we got? Oh, and I think Victoria says, yes, she wants to hear it. Sounds like a kickoff call recruiters should be having when hiring manager before recruiting on the position. Yes. Yes, you're getting a little bit more clarity around this before you even start. Again, just like when you lease apartments, you build a building, you know who you're building for, right? What customers you want to draw in. And this is the same thing in solving this problem.
Exactly. Yeah, and the more nuances and details that is pulled out and put into a job, like you said, good marketing repels as much as it attracts. And so if you put in lots of good details and rich information in a job ad, potential candidates are going to read it and they'll either identify with it and say, oh, that's me, I can win here. Or they're going to be like, that doesn't sound like me. And that's going to help with who's applying and how many applications you get and the quality of the candidates.
Yep. All right, let's go back. What are we going to show them next?
So as you can see with the success factors, we have measurement criteria, quoted examples from the conversations that are had. And after the phone call is done, you can see the audio and transcript and that kind of information. So this is, a lot richer information. And so, like I said, when candidates come in, whether it's from, me uploading a manual candidate, so I can click add candidate, drop in their resume, pick which job they're applying for, and, any notes about.
Okay, so if you had a job fair and you got 30 resumes to drop in, you can drop that in there.
Correct.
Also, you can, let me go back to the slide there. So in here, an AI agent there's no name, email, and phone number there.
Correct.
An AI agent in the background is saying, I'm going to do that work for you. Let me get that information off the resume and put it into the applicant tracking system. Let's go to where that goes in the candidate row.
Exactly, yeah. So candidate row, boom. So you have kind of an overview here. You have lots of filters to work with, so you can decide how you screen. Ultimately, our platform is designed to help you do selection. Everything is organized and everything is streamlined to help you have the information and easy access to the information for a candidate to make that decision. And our system simply presents and organizes information. Our AI never makes a decision about which candidates to show you or who fits what. It gives you information so you can make that decision in a streamlined fashion. I could, in this candidate rank, I could override it if I wanted to, and I could click one of these others, and it will change that candidate to them, no questions asked, because ultimately I'm the one making the decisions here. And like we mentioned, the great, report.
I love that where the resume, they're not on laptops and computers and all that kind of stuff, so it's all in one place.
Yep.
And again, we integrate with ATSs that you already have, so you can move this in and out of the system you're already using.
Yeah, correct. You can see this candidate, in this case, we've already sent it to UKG for onboarding. We selected them, and we have the external system of UKG, and we integrate with many of them, that you can send to that system to do, the other things that you need to do. And so we get all this rich information, like I said, the executive summary. All of this is also in that PDF report that we flashed at the beginning, which is great because you could download it, mail it to someone. And so the big thing that really this is helpful for and how this it really is making you a better interviewer, which is what you talked about earlier, is these questions. So what's happened for this candidate? They've applied for the position. Their resume came in. We took the resume and we compared it against the job competencies, the success factors, all that rich information about what actually winning looks like at this job. And we've said, okay, what are the gaps between what they've presented and what we need? Now, just because there's a gap doesn't mean that they don't have that competency. It just means that the resume didn't present that very well. It didn't communicate it very well. And so that's why we've written these questions about so you can find those gaps. So first we give you a question, which is meant to, for this particular candidate, give you insight into that gap. So in this case, there was a project where they had to collaborate with cross-functional teams to meet.
So you're asking a question. So this would be helping let's say corporate does the recruiting, but now the regional manager can prepare for this.
Correct.
Now they don't have to think as hard, and they're going to think more clearly about what's needed, but then also what to listen for. Tell me more about that.
So, a question is great, but unless you really know what the goal is of that question, you're just asking a question and you're going to get some information. You have to reason about it. Was that a good answer or not? So what we like to do is give a what to listen for.
So let me stop for a minute because I've seen some of these come through around like sales or marketing, where if you have a candidate and the candidate's worked at a winning company, and all of a sudden that's impressive to you, but what you need to listen for is the word we. So if they describe how they went about marketing by, well, we ran some ads, we did this promotion, we did that, what the AI agents are going to do is they're going to tell you, listen for that, because it's one thing to be on a team that did really well versus having the competencies to be the person that can do really well. And so that would be an example, like the red flag, like that could be listen for that and then follow up with some specific examples of, well, tell me more what was your role in that ad campaign? Like, did you write the copy? Did you do the creative, or did you dot the I?
Yeah, exactly. So that's where we give you the what to listen for, the red flags that are, if they don't talk about these specific things or these items, listen for that. And we give questions, a bunch about gaps. We also give a couple behavioral type questions and problem solving questions and teamwork questions. So,
and I like that these are not generic. Like every candidate gets their own unique question because of what's been presented and the competencies that came from that first interview.
Yeah.
I love that because now what's happening is even the people asking the questions are not asking the same questions. Like these aren't questions that they can prepare for, right? They Google and ask like, how am I going to prepare for this trick question or whatever? Because it's coming from their unique resume
Yep.
or presentation or even conversation.
Yeah, we do the same after they do their assessment call. So like we said, we've been talking about, we have an assessment call that's a voice AI agent that is similar to some of those tests, and it really gets into how they think, the problem solving, as Patrick talked about earlier, but then we also generate interview questions off of that too. So we take, once again, the job competencies, success factors, and then the stuff that they talked about on the phone with our voice AI, and we generate questions based off that too. The great thing with these questions is that we present them, we give them to whoever's doing this interview, but they don't have to use them. It's up to, once again, the selection and decision making is up to that, who is doing the interview.
Yeah, I love this because it's training, really. I mean, in property management, like if you're leading a team and if you're a regional, this is everything. If you're a regional, your ability to collect the right people, be that wedge between the asset management of what corporate needs and what the on-site competencies are, your ability to put good people on site is the reason why people hire one management company over the other. And if that creates experience and income and all that stuff, this is where now you're skilling up the workforce in your organization because these are dynamic and more unique on each run.
Yeah, exactly. And those good questions, this goes back to the selection. The better questions you ask in the interview, the better you will know this person, the better picture you'll paint of this person, and the better that this is going to be a good selection. Or you're going to be able to select between multiple candidates, better. Yeah,
I'm going to put in here for a full demo. I'm going to put a link in here in the chat. We don't have enough time to go through the full demo. We really want to provide value here today. But if that's of interest to you, go ahead and let us know. But what questions do you like? What do you want to see now that you have us here? We know. I think it was Victoria wanted to hear the voice. Do you want to go through the?
Sure.
Let's do the voice. Let's do. Now this is going to be a cognitive science trained interview agent that knows how to do unique follow-on questions, and every conversation is unique. It's not the same, and it's based off of what the caller presents, right?
Yep. Correct.
And so this is designed not to do any pre-screening or assessment, but just to begin the kickoff of like, who do we want to really hire?
Yep, exactly.
All right, so let's see. You'll have to keep it close to so they
I'll
can
keep
hear.
it close to my mic. So I have it saved in my phone in this case. So I'm going to do the phone call for a leasing agent job, just kind of a generic
one. Okay, before you begin, listen, if there's anything in the chat that you believe has been interesting, put it down. I'd love to hear what's compelling, what's resonating with you, and how you're thinking about this. I want to make sure that we're providing value for you as we move through this. So, Miles, go ahead. Let's
awesome.
let this go.
Hello, I am your job posting assistant. Let's create a job together. What is the job code for the job you are going to hire for?
Yeah, my job code is 8034.
Thank you for providing the job code. To begin, I'd love to hear about someone you've known who truly excelled in this role. Could you tell me a story about a specific individual who performed exceptionally well in job code 8034?
Yeah, so this is for a leasing agent. We had a gal who was just a stellar leasing agent. Almost every tour she did, she closed, and she was just really good at understanding why the person was there at the property in that moment. She would ask questions just in a conversational way to the people as they were going through the tour to find out first, what brought them to that moment in time. Was it a job promotion or a job relocation? Was it something like a breakup or a divorce? There's a lot of reasons people are at your property in that moment. She would start with that and then work her way down into, why did you pick this particular property? Do you like the area? Do you like the website? And then work her way down there until she gets down to the micro level of, isn't this kitchen nice? And isn't this? And so that strategy was really effective for her in the way she executed it. And I would love to have more leasing agents like her.
That's a fantastic example. It sounds like she had a remarkable ability to connect with people on a deeper level. Could you tell me more about how she used the information she gathered about their personal situations to make the tours so effective?
Yeah, as she learned more information about the people going through the tour, she would kind of weave a narrative of what living in that apartment would look like. Like, oh, you know, once you live here, your job is only going to be 10 minutes away. And, oh, you know, after a hard day's work, we have this pool. You know, so she would weave in those details into presenting the property and presenting the amenities and presenting why you would want to live there if your life situation is fill in the blank that she learned from, you know, the conversations.
That's a very insightful approach to tailoring the experience. It sounds like she was very skilled at making the property feel like a perfect fit for each individual. Can you recall a time when she faced a particularly challenging situation during a tour, perhaps with a difficult prospect or an unexpected issue, and how she handled it?
Yeah, I know she once had this situation, which unfortunately is all too common. She went to show an apartment and it wasn't ready. Hadn't been painted, hadn't been cleaned from the last tenant. Maintenance supposedly had, you know, finished it. Unfortunately, it was not as presentable as we typically like. And so that was a challenging tour because she basically had to work extra hard to help the people on the tour envision what living there would look like despite you know, what they could see. So she really had to tap into their creativity. And so from what I heard after that tour, the prospect did not end up renting, but she tried her best. And she also then, we had conversations with the maintenance department, and we actually implemented some better systems for communicating from maintenance to leasing agent what properties are appropriate to show, you know, at the moment.
That's a tough situation, and it sounds like she faced it head on. Given that the apartment wasn't in ideal condition, what specific strategies or communication techniques did she use during that tour to try and help the prospects envision the space, despite its current state?
Could you rephrase that question?
Certainly. When the apartment wasn't ready, how did she manage to help the prospects imagine living there, even with the visible issues?
Yeah, you know, she talked about, she pointed a lot to like the view or things external to the apartment. So she would point to like out a window and say, oh, look, you have a view of the pool. So she really kind of drew attention away from the, you know, apartment that wasn't ready and brought it closer to the property itself, which was beautiful at the moment.
That's a clever way to redirect their focus. When she pointed out the view of the pool or other external features, what kind of language did she use to maintain a positive and
Well, we could keep going for
Okay, so what I took from that was interesting, and again, that conversation is designed to really extract what is really wonderful about the people you want. But what you heard in this interview was the AI agent knowing how to use that cognitive science and reasoning model to extract what Miles was talking about, and leaning into like what was challenging in that role. Like how did that winner deal with the challenges? Because that's where we're getting to the competencies and the success factors. And then you saw like the follow-on questions of like specifically what were the strategies used in going about doing that thing. And so again, in answering those things, it's sometimes easier to talk about our winners, and we can do that. And then what our AI agents will do is we'll then take that information and create those job competencies and those success factors, and then they become part of your marketing message where you end up with a career site, a landing page, and you can put that on LinkedIn anywhere you want, but also now it's compelling and it's drawing in the type of people that would most likely win. And then when resumes come in, now we're matching up against a model that doesn't exist in the world because it exists within your people, because you know what winning looks like in your organization. So let's go to a couple of questions here. Victoria asks, what is the typical time a candidate spends doing the interview or filling out the form? Is this part of the initial application process? So what we were talking about there, what we just demonstrated was the job competency agent. So this would be internal. A candidate wouldn't do that. You would do that as the hiring manager or part of your team. And that's to really essentially train an AI model at every role for every post that you do. Or if you want to do this at scale, you can do this on all leasing agents, I guess. And so the candidate, we could, and that's what I put the link in there because we can demo, we have a candidate pre-screen where we can interview up to 100,000 people at one time with AI agents, right? And so you could think about that process as being, I have your resume here. Tell me about what you did at this company and what was hard about that. So we can do that from a pre-screen if you choose. You're in control. You can just use AI to summarize and use this as an AI model, but you can also use this to pre-screen candidates. And then you can also use this on the assessment piece, which would be like a final deeper dive, deeper conversations about, tell me about those challenges and how you went about solving them. And that's more of like the assessment piece. So the time frame that typically spends can be in the minutes, 15 minutes, 12 minutes.
Yeah,
I mean, depends on the ability of them to express. And
True. So usually we see the screening call anywhere from 5 to 10-ish minutes, because usually those are shorter answer questions. And then the assessment call, which is, like you said, a deeper dive, those can be 20 to 30 minute time frames to get a lot of really good information.
Yeah, and then the competency one, the one we just demonstrated, can be what?
10 to 30.
Take it. Yeah.
We've seen some very 35-minute conversations to really deep dive into what the role needs.
Yeah. All right, so Victoria again asks the question, is there an interview guide that the hiring managers can use in conjunction with these questions when it is time for them to interview the candidate? So we give them an assessment report, and in there is all the questions that you need, and you may have your own, but we give you all those questions in that report. And you can email those, you can print them, do whatever you want with those.
Just to add to that, the report is designed to be a standalone document with everything you need to interview that candidate. So the idea is, maybe the person doing the interview doesn't have a login into Picasso like a property manager. You can send that report, that PDF, and it'll have everything that they need to do a good interview with that candidate.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Victoria asks, if the hiring manager has the same opening, let's say 6 months down the road, do they have to repeat the process, or can it pull the previous information to start the process? So this is like you hire a leasing agent and you filled it, and now you have a new leasing agent role hiring. You can use the same information.
You could
or
duplicate
you
the
could
job.
say, I'm going to update this because we're now at stabilized. We're not in lease up, and it needs to change a little bit.
Yeah, you can duplicate jobs, and then you could have a different.
Let's
phone
show
call.
them how that happens. Is that in the software or?
Yeah, so let me go over here to jobs, and then over here you can see, let's do the leasing agent. I have here a clone job button, and I can click that, and boom, now I have a leasing agent clone, and then I can go in and edit it, change the name, change a couple little details, or do a whole another phone call on this particular job to, like you said, update it, get a different perspective.
Sure.
Maybe just some tweaks.
Great. And where do you want to take it from here? Do you want to show a little bit more about the landing page, the career page, and some of the other really useful stuff?
Sure.
And if you have questions, put them in the chat. Happy to deal with those questions live as well. So.
Preview. Yeah, so for every job, we give a simple landing page that's got the job information, like the job description, and then at the bottom of this page is an apply for this position. We keep it very simple, just first name, last name, email, phone number, which is optional, and resume, the file. And once again, the AI agents are going to do a lot of the data entry. This goes directly into our system, just like if you had uploaded it or just like if it came from Indeed, and it'll do all that analysis right here. And then we also give each candidate a landing page, which you can then link on your website or send to the candidates directly.
It's a company career page too, right?
Correct. So it's got all your different jobs that you have published, so you can control which ones are visible here and which ones are still maybe in draft, or you're done hiring. And there's a little area where you can add like a why work here, about this culture. You can even put images here as well. So you can spruce this up to be a really nice job landing page, because some companies don't have that, or the one that they do have is not that great. And so this allows you to kind of stand alone. You can direct candidates here instead of Indeed or ZipRecruiter, which is really great. Okay,
great. Well, what questions do you guys have as we go through this? I want to make sure we're productive. There's a link in the chat if you want to get more of a behind-the-scenes, full, detailed demo of this. You can do that. I put a link in there, and that's the landing page for the product itself. Would love to learn more about what your needs are and walk you through how it can be useful for you. All right, so let's see. Victoria asks, mentioned earlier, this can be tied into an ATS. Can you show it if tied into iSIMS or other ATS, we integrate with a lot of applicant tracking systems. So if we're not integrated already with yours, that's something we can handle. We would just need to coordinate with the system you use and make sure that you have the right level account and you have an API and all that kind of stuff. But we are currently integrating with other customers that have applicant tracking systems like that as well. So that becomes one of the advantages of working Picasso. It doesn't need to be the system that you use for onboarding and all these other things. It's really, again, about getting that selection right. So moving the data outside and back in is what we make easy for you. And our team takes on that process for you as well. Great. Well, listen, any other questions that you guys may have? I would love to talk through them. Miles, it's been awesome going through this with you.
Thank you.
I know that we're leading some really interesting things around innovation, using voice, using automation, and using AI in an application to a business problem that a lot of people have. So I love the innovation the team's doing. And
Thank you.
Yeah. With that, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. If you have any questions, we'll stick around for a minute or two. But if that's not the case and you got to run, click the link, go to thepicassohire.com and /contact. The link's in the chat. You can get all the information that you need to get in touch with us to get a demo and ultimately start using the product. We'd love to help you select better, reduce advertising costs, a little bit more independence on being able to find the diamond in the rough, those leaders that you know can make a significant difference in your organization. Behind every success and failure is a person. If you don't bring in the right people, we're just chasing our tail, right? And in fact, you may already have the winners in your organization, and if you don't put the right winners in, you'll lose the winners. So this is one of those differentiators, I think, is talent being the last real competitive advantage. It's the most important thing a leader can do in the organization. Build a healthy company, protect that culture, and win for their employees, for their investors, and the people they bring in. So with that, we'll see you guys on the next one. I hope this was helpful. If you know anybody that should watch this, there's a link. In fact, I will put it back in the chat here. And you can send anybody that has not seen this. If you think that this is helpful to someone else, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in there. Share that link with somebody that you think could watch this, and they'll have to register, of course, but they'll go and they'll be able to watch the replay. If you came here and didn't do that now, because now you can get access to the replay and go through this later. Because I know some executives watch this, and you'll think, well, this is great. I believe in this, but I need someone else to be involved to understand how to bring this into the organization. So with that, Claudia, thank you for the note. Appreciate you. Hope that was helpful for all the others out there, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day. See you guys.